Les Alfred is a badass media entrepreneur and the host of She's So Lucky podcast. So her company is all about women making their own luck in life. And so her business makes content and then she monetizes with big brands. That business model has become almost the new American dream. Almost everybody wants to make content these days and have influence that pays their bills. One thing that I really admire about Les is how consistent she is with her content, though. So she really shows up online and has built this intentional brand all around balance. But I also think that there is a tension there that's interesting because I see that she's working really hard. So today, I want to talk to Les about what soft life actually means when you're still ambitious as hell, whether women are secretly burning themselves out trying to build a soft life online, and how to know whether you're actually a soft life girly or naturally a baddie who likes to grind hard but feels pressured to romanticize slowing down. So this is the real stuff. Les, welcome to Bossy.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah. Okay, so I saw you posted this thing on social media and I was giggling about it. It was like something about like shaking some ass for, do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, shaking my ass for Kohl's cash.
What does that mean, first of all?
Okay, first of all, that came from like a TikTok sound like several years ago. Like during the pandemic, there was like a TikTok sound that said that. It was like a fake Kohl's ad that was not at all associated with the company. And I just thought that it was like a funny tagline.
Is just saying it or it's like a song or like, I don't know.
They had like a song with it.
But how's the song go?
I don't remember. I don't
just remember something about shaking
pandemic. But okay. Yeah, one of the things that was said in this like old TikTok sound was like, shaking ass for Kohl's cash. And so I just thought that that was funny. And it was something that I would always say to myself whenever I felt like I was performing for the internet, which is all the time. It was something that I would like say to myself jokingly, but then I said it online maybe a couple months ago in an episode of my podcast. I was interviewing a fellow content creator, Alex Hill. She's a great food creator. Just Add Hot Sauce is her platform. And we were just talking about sometimes just like the performance that we do. And so I ended up saying it in the episode. And that was the first time a lot of people heard me say it. And it became a funny thing.
What do you think has been the most fulfilling part of starting your own business? Because you were in corporate before. You were like, the thing that I want to do is not be in corporate. I want to start my own business. What's been the most fulfilling part of doing that thus far?
I think the most fulfilling part is when I get feedback from my audience that I either introduce them to something new, whether it's like a new person, a new book, a new author, a new perspective. I've been getting that a lot lately with my more recent content, particularly talking more about business and investing, introducing my audience to concepts that they may not have known existed that are way more accessible than they thought. I've been telling people that I've been changing their perspectives a lot, and that is so rewarding. I mean, my fake jobs in spreadsheets with fake numbers was not changing anyone's perspective.
Not the fake job with...
It is fake. A lot of it's fake.
Why is it fake?
A lot of my big corporate jobs, they were just fake. It was like, what am I really impacting anything here? Like, this is fake.
I definitely have had fake corporate jobs. Yeah. And fake corporate jobs where like there are two other people where it's like, I've done it like big companies, like at Microsoft.
Yeah, same.
There were like two other people who pretty much had the same job to do. And like, you did not need all those people to do it. And like, I could do just a little bit and like, that was fine. And like, it was a fake job in many ways.
So fake. It was one time I had a woman write to me after one of my more finance episodes, telling me that she'd created a debt payoff plan and started a college fund for her daughter. And I was like, this is real. So now her daughter will get an education debt-free, unlike me and unlike a lot of people in our generation, because this conversation had an impact on her. That's way more rewarding than my fake PowerPoints.
Which is really kind of like true meaning of being an influencer, right? You influenced her to do something that she really needed to do and was really helpful. Like that's you being an influencer in a way that I imagine does feel good and in alignment. It's the other stuff that maybe not so much, but that you want to hold on to.
That I want to hold on to. Like whether or not someone buys my Sephora sale pics, neither here nor there. But that I'm like, yes, more of that.
I'm going to interrupt this episode for a special segment called Tech and Tell that's brought to you by AT&T Business. This segment is kind of like show and tell in school, but instead of your favorite toy, we're sharing tools and technology we feel are really game changers for us as we run businesses. So, Les, what is your tech tool?
I would say my main tech platforms, one, Notion. I use Notion to stay organized with everything. It's like our central hub for content. We run the whole podcast on Notion. And then also Descript, which is where we transcribe all of our episodes, we edit, and it just makes it so much easier for creating all the other content to support the episode.
What are two ways that you use Notion specifically?
We use it as a project management tool, so we know what the status is for everything that we're creating. We know in the queue, like where in production every episode is. And then I also use it to communicate with the team. So every time somebody finishes a task, they're able to tag the next person who can then take the baton from there to get the episode done.
Yeah, I've been using Monday for some of the similar things, right, to track things that are going on with clients because I have a service business.
Yeah.
And I've been geeking out about just like how simple of a structure it is. We were using a more complex tool before, and it's like the simplicity is actually a lot better. And it turns out I didn't need all the fanciness and bells and whistles to have something that worked.
It has to work for your brain. That's what's most important.
I know that for the tools we just mentioned to work, you need connectivity you can rely on, and that's when you turn to AT&T Business. So, dear listener, of these tools and tactics that we just mentioned, which one would you actually try first? And also, what technology have you recently tried that's really changed your workflow? Content is a really tricky business model. Like, I think we like to glorify it, but like the thing about the podcast or content creator influencer business is that like it's like a winner take all kind of space. So you think everybody's making a lot of money, but like I was reading that like 4% of creators make over $100,000 a year.
Wow.
The median creator makes like $3,000 a year. So like there are people that you follow that are like doing it and making a whole bunch of money, and it's a huge business. And also it's actually hard to monetize for like most people. Do you feel like doing that business of like trying to monetize content is giving you like a soft life, a hustler life? Like, what does your life look like now inside of that, like this social media dichotomy that we talk about?
So I will say I've never really resonated with any of the quote unquote soft life ideology, as the internet puts it. I think that there are elements of life that have softness, and there are elements of life that are hard. And I think everybody's life has a mix of both. Some people's life has a little more softness, and some people's life has a little bit more hard. But I don't think I've ever identified as a soft life girly, nor have I seen what the internet defines as a soft life and been like, oh, I want that.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I don't even know what that means.
I don't even really know that it works. Like, I feel like there's a part of the soft life narrative that is, there's an undertone of it that's like somebody else will take care of you.
Yes.
Like, as a woman, you find a man,
that does not resonate with
and he's
me.
going to take care of you. No. I know women who have that set up, and they're not necessarily happier. Like, that's a hard life in many ways, to have someone to answer to, particularly if you like value your independence and are like, I do stuff for myself. Like, that's a hard life to live too, in a different kind of way.
Yeah, you almost got to pick your heart.
You got to pick your heart. And then also there's seasons, right?
Yeah.
Like, you could be in a time of life where it's a little softer, a little bit hard, but a little bit more like grind life. Where would you put, on a scale of 1 to 10, what season are you in now? Like, what your life looks like? If like 10 is like hustler girl, 1 is like soft life era, where are you right now in this season of life?
I would say I'm probably at like a 6, because I think for having a content business, there is a certain, there's just always something. So I host an always on weekly podcast. So no matter what, every week an episode has to come out, and there is a certain amount of hustle that has to make that happen. Yeah. There are also have been seasons where I'm like going above and beyond, and I'm really trying to grow, and I'm doing all of this stuff. And that's not where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
I'm kind of putting out my episode a week, and I'm giving myself a bit more downtime to figure out, kind of to my point earlier, like, what is it that I want to do next?
Okay, but wait, but I see what you produce, and you are doing more than an episode a week, because there's an episode a week, but then you have like social content around that. And then like, I'll just see you pop up on a story. And then I also follow you on, like, there's multiple channels. First of all, for people who are aspiring to have content businesses, can you map out like what you actually produce in a week?
Yeah. So I would say the podcast is the core. Yeah. That is like the center of everything that I do, and everything else kind of supports that. So every week on my show, She's So Lucky, we have an hour-long episode. most of those episodes, I would say about 80% of those episodes are me sitting down with a guest, and about 20% are just me solo. So for example, this week, the week that we're recording this, I had a solo, which I usually start each month off. So I have my hour-long episode that comes out. From that hour-long episode, we'll put out anywhere from like 5 to 8 short-form clips of the episode.
Who's we?
I have a video editor.
Great.
Who edits those down for me. She edits the really nicely produced ones. And then sometimes if there's an episode that's really juicy, then I'll go in and I'll do some extra little clips that are a little bit lower quality, but like just a little bit quicker and less edited and refined. And then, so we have the episode. We have about 5 to 8 short form pieces of content. Then I have the newsletter. Each week I put out a newsletter that is kind of an episode guide to help the audience apply what they hear. Yeah. So in that, I'll talk a little bit more about the episode, share some behind the scenes. I'll give some journal prompts. I'll give some summaries. So we have that comes out every week. Excuse me. Alongside the episode. I also put out a blog post for each episode, so I'll have like a full kind of blog post that talks a little bit more about the episode, maybe explores some key themes, but is like better for written. What else? I feel like those are the main things related to the podcast itself, and then I'll post all of that across all different platforms.
And then maybe you have a brand that wants to do something and that you're posting for, so there's also that.
Yes, and I do almost think of it as 2 separate buckets. So we have She's So Lucky, which is the podcast, the newsletter, the blog. She's So Lucky has its own social channels on every platform. And then I have mine, my less channels. And the less channels are the influencer side. So that's where I show up and I'm posting, here's what events I'm going to, or here's what I'm doing. Or sometimes I'll do a talking head video to talk a little bit more about the episode as a different form of promotion, because sometimes that works a little bit better than the polished clip.
Yeah.
So it's a mix every week.
So here's why I wanted you to break that down, because if we rewind like a little bit in the conversation, you're like, I'm kind of in a season where I'm like, there's some core stuff that I do, but I'm sort of not doing all of the things because I'm reevaluating. But you just listed a lot of things.
I feel like I've been doing it for so long though that I'm like, oh, that's not to me. It's almost, I don't want to say easy to diminish the work that I do, but I'm so used to putting that out.
This is a common thing of like women who are overachievers, right? We're like, yeah, like I'm in kind of like slowing down. And meanwhile, when it actually look at your to-do list and what you're producing, it's pretty impressive. It's actually a lot. So I think it's useful for us to like know what your 6 is.
Yeah.
Because like some people want to do businesses like this and they're thinking that what you just described is a 10 and that like what a 6 is something totally different. So it's useful to know what actually is a 6. This one is for all of my small business owners. So whether you're a 1-person team operating out of your garage or running locations all over your city, you really don't have to follow every trend or micro trend to be seen. Your business's growth, it's powered by your own creativity and you having the right stash of tools. So you can start small and experiment. And then once you've got results that you're looking for, it's time to scale. And that's where AT&T Business comes in. So AT&T Business understands the unique challenges that come with owning a small business. And that's why they provide connectivity that you can really rely on to grow with confidence. You can learn more at att.com/small business. That's att.com/small business. I want to also talk about the art of pivoting your business and also the nuance of like pivoting in public versus pivoting in private. Because I've seen you make multiple pivots in your business. One of them, namely, is like changing the name of your podcast. The name before was Balanced Black Girl. Yep. Right. Okay. And you changed it to She's So Lucky. What was behind that change, that pivot?
A lot of it was that the content had already changed. I mean, I started Balanced Black Girl and I started podcasting in 2018. And at that time, I was a wellness creator. So in addition to working in corporate, I also had this separate career in fitness. I'd gone back to school for nutrition. I was very into wellness and I was known on the internet for being a wellness creator. So when I first started the show, it was a wellness show. That was the core.
Yeah.
I usually had Black and brown women of color experts for different wellness topics, and we would deep dive wellness topics every week on the show. Yeah, that was the show for a very long time. And when I was probably maybe about 4 years in, probably about 2021, 2022, started expanding to incorporate more lifestyle topics. So we would also start talking about money, and we would talk about friendships, and we would talk about books, and I would start interviewing authors, and the show just kind of started to expand in terms of topics.
Why do you think that happened?
I think it's kind of a natural evolution. Once you're doing something for so long, it's like, how many times can I talk about gut health? Like, how many times can I tell y'all to journal?
But sometimes people feel like really stuck and like, I've been doing it this way. It's working thus far. I have to keep doing it this way. And it sounds like you felt free to be like, I'm going to expand topics.
I did.
That's where my interest is.
And when I expanded topics, the audience grew too. So I think that the audience was interested in that too. They wanted to hear more conversations and more topics. And so when I started to rebrand the show, or when I decided to rebrand the show, it was more so about making the packaging match what the show had become. So it had started off as this like wellness show, deep diving wellness topics, and it had become more of a self-help lifestyle show of people and women who really want to live their best lives and who want inspiration to do so. And so the rebrand was really making the packaging match what the show had become.
Thank you so much for kind of painting this for us. I have some friends who are like working on their influencer journey. I have other friends who are coming out of their influencer journey. And I think that it's a cycle. Like you said, any career is a cycle. Like you're like, I was in the season where I was really excited about this career, and now, I don't know.
Yeah.
And so I think you're giving folks a lot of permission to be in the I don't know phase. Thank you for that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Nice having you, Les.
Thank you so much for having me.